Welcome to B.Tech, my dear students. As a continuation to the previous session, there we discussed about the database management system. Now we are going to have knowledge of system development lifecycle. That means how the computer system here, the software is developed, how they are implemented in the application programs. In system engineering or the system software engineering, the system development has a life cycle, is also called as application development life cycle. It is a process of planning, creating, testing and deploying an application. So it has the life cycle of implementing and applying the processes in different manners. It is also used to design the hardware configuration, not only the software, it also used to design the hardware configuration. Here the following are the few important procedural steps that involved in the life cycle. They are, the first one is investigation, analysis, design, system processing and programming design, presentation to the management and to the user, coding, implementation and testing along with the documentation. So these are the 9 procedural steps that involved in the development of life cycle of the computer system, that is for the development of system software or the hardware. Here the first one is project concept initiation. In the first one it is this, next one is the planning, next one is the requirements of the system, and next one is system design and development, and next one is testing, and next one is project monitoring and control, and next one is production turnover development, next one is project survey maintenance. Here you can see few steps are giving the feedback, that is project maintaining and control. Here it includes the decision of system design and development, here you can see, and the system requirements. So they are need to be updated from time to time, so they need to be checked back of the conditions that are there of implementing or developing the system. Here the system development lifecycle framework provides a sequence of activities for the system designer as well as the developer to do the following things. The first and foremost one is investigation. During the investigation phase, there is the need to determine the current features of the system and the requirements of creating new and improved system development. This will help to determine the cost, benefits, resource requirements and specific user needs required for the completion of the task. The next one is analysis. In the analysis part, the main goal of analysis is to determine where the problem is and attempt to fix the system, and the step involves breaking down the system in different pieces to analyze the situation and analyzing the project goals. Here breakdown needs to be created and attempting to engage users so that definite requirement can be defined for the analysis. The next one is the design. The design of system phase is designing the functions and operations like screen layouts, process diagrams and other documentation, and they need to satisfy the functional requirements of the proposed system. Here it is the most crucial phase in the SDLC, and the logical system design arrived at the analysis phase, and they are converted into the physical system design, where the input, output and databases, forms, code generation schemes, processing algorithms are drawn in this phase. The programming languages which are required to design it are called, also here we can decide. The hardware requirements which are required to run they are also decided. The software platform in which the system will run, it is also decided here. The data structure, control process, equipment, workload, limitations, interface, documentations, training, all these things and other backup things that are required, they are also decided here. See, here we need to consider the training, procedures, interfaces, workload and some limitations, and these are decided in this phase. The techniques used for describing the system, the design of the system is also in different formats. Here the design has different formats, that is drawing the flowchart, data flow diagrams, data dictionary which gives the complete information about the data, decision tables and decision tree. The fourth one is system processing and program designing. This phase represents that what needs to be built in a product, that is a planning to determine the tools, procedures, budget, resourcing needs and that are required. Here there are two kinds of requirements, functional requirements and non-functional requirements. Next one is presentation to the management and user. After making the previous things on a object or the project, the next one is presentation them to the management and user. After selecting and designing the problem, it is required to prepare a proposal for presentation before the management who will fund it, that means who will generate the financial need, and it is need to be presented before the user to know whether that user requirements are satisfied, whether the problem will satisfy the user requirements or not. Next one is coding. The goal of coding phase is to translate the design of system into the code, that means by using the specific programming. There the coding phase affects both the testing and maintenance cost of software and much higher than coding cost. Here therefore the goal of coding should be reduce the testing process and maintenance effect, and an important concept that helps the understandability of coding is by using the structured programming. The following are the points we need to remember while coding is the version control application is required. Next one is select the development to which will be suitable for coding and debugging, modificationing and satisfying the designing needs. Next one is select the standard tool, as multiple developers going to use the same file for coding. That means selecting that unique code is not the important one. Select the code that is applicable or usable by other users also. While appropriate comments so that developer will come to know the logic behind the code. That means we need to mention appropriate commands. That means comments that gives an idea of the thing what is happening there by the user. Next one is implementation. In this phase, the developers implement the code according to the requirement, and database administrators create the necessary data in the database. Next one is front-end developers creates the necessary interface and GUI to interact with the backend. That means how the GUI can interact with the backend users. Next one is the testing, the most important one. During the testing phase, the developers find out whether their code or programming working in according to the customer requirement or not. It is used to reduce the number of errors within the software design. Here the test plan includes the type of testing we will be using for testing and how the software will be tested. Here the test scripts are a set of instructions that are used to test the software. Here there are different types of tests. One is quality assurance test. Next one is system integration test, SIT. Here in QAT, that is quality assurance test, it is used to test, that means check the software is operated according to the customer requirements or not, where SIT is used to check how the software interacts with the other software applications. And here in this one there are two categories, white box testing and black box testing. In white box testing, it is a process of testing the software internal structure, design and coding. In this testing, the code is visible to the tester. While coming to the black box testing, it examines the functionality of an application without involving into the internal structure or working. Now, the last phase of system development is system documentation. Here, the documentation provides an overview of the system and helps the engineers to stakeholders to understand the technology that is used in the preparation of system. The documentation consists of the requirements, architecture design, source code, validation documents, verification and the testing information. Next one is the maintenance and help guide. These things that which are there in the documentation are categorized into two ways, that is product documentation and process documentation. Coming to the product documentation, it describes the product which is being developed and provides the instructions how to perform various tasks within it. Next one is process documentation. It represents all documents produced during the development and maintenance of the process. So these are the phases that are involved in the system development, which is nothing but the system is nothing but here we can consider it as a project or a program that is used to solve particular problem that arises in an organization or in a particular situation. So these are the steps that are involved in giving a solution to particular problem by the development of system. So my dear students, so these are the phases that are involved in the system development. Thank you so much. We will continue in the next session.